Welcome back to Studio 5. It's a stereotype that is sometimes true, that overbearing in-law who has no respect for boundaries, no understanding of why you feel how you do, no regard, no respect. Of course, we're talking about your friends' in-laws. Studio 5 relationship contributor Dr. Matt Townsend says in-law relationships can put a huge strain on you and your spouse. Always the friends' in-laws, though, right?
Always air-quoted friends.
Friends. Hey, we have to say happy birthday last week.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
29? 28.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I've been working out, so I'm almost 26, it feels
happy
like.
Day.
Thank you.
No, in-laws, how often do couples land in your office and at the root of a problem is an in-law relationship?
Yeah. Well, a lot. Probably 30%.
Really?
It has an in-law issue. Now, by the way, sometimes they're warranted, and so sometimes the in-law, we always think it's our parents that are messing up the relationship, but sometimes the bad in-law is the son-in-law that's hurting your daughter, or the daughter-in-law that's difficult with your...
It can go two ways.
It can go both ways, but some of the rules we're going to talk about deal with all difficult people. So this isn't just for in-laws. You can use this for friends, neighbors, people that just get on your nerves.
Whoever is giving you grief in your life, apply these rules to them.
But in-laws are especially difficult because you didn't really buy them as the package. You want your spouse. Nobody's buying anybody, by the way. But we wanted our spouse, and then all of a sudden we've got to take their brothers, their sisters, their parents, the grandparents, and so we all just need to take a big deep breath and just relax and say, you know what? We all want everyone to succeed here.
Right.
So let's do what we can. Parents be thinking, are you an intrusive in-law? And kids be thinking, are you difficult to deal with? And
what's interesting along those lines, I really was talking to a girlfriend the other day, by the way.
Yeah.
But no, I really was.
No, I get it.
I really was.
No,
okay. No, but she said, what's interesting is obviously I love my husband so much. I just can't get along with the people who raised him, which is so interesting because you're interconnected all at the same time.
You'd think this would be love because it's love.
Yeah.
But again, the love you had for your husband was chemical. It was kind of more physical. It involved a lot more dreams, a lot of hopes, a lot of aspirations. And then you take their little baby and rip them from the womb.
Oh boy.
And all of a sudden, you want them to be your friend.
Yeah.
So there's a weird competition that goes on. So here's some basic rules, okay? First rule, this is the rule, I've said this a million times on this show. Don't follow the most relationally challenged person. Which,
I don't care how many times you say it, every time you say it, it's like a brain light bulb, because why do we do this? Why do we let the most relationally challenged person drive the relationship
because
dynamic?
we are relationally challenged.
Okay.
So you don't let the most messed up, jacked up, chaotic, confusing human being lead the show. You don't let that. So if you're right that your in-laws are so difficult, don't follow their lead. And they're like, well, I have to. What am I supposed to do? Well, we'll get to that. But you got to think. You don't let the one that's got the most anxiety determine your social life. You don't let the one that's got the most depression determine what activities we will do and we won't do.
You don't let them basically set the tone for your life or your situation.
Right. The minute you turn it over to them and then all of a sudden you're just kind of following their lead, you have set yourself up. So one of the rules is make sure you're not the most relationally challenged. And you might think you're not because everyone loves me but my in-laws. But if everyone loves you but your in-laws and you can't influence your in-laws, you might need some more skills.
Interesting.
Makes sense?
That's an interesting self-evaluation.
It's an interesting thing, too, because I hear women all the time that are so frustrated with their husband that doesn't communicate. But then I'm like, well, then use your skills, because you're so good at it, and go get him to communicate more. Oh, well, I've tried. It doesn't work. And so then they don't end up talking. That might be a wife following the lead of the most relationally challenged. Don't take the lead. Don't let them take the lead. So instead, that means you have to own it. You have to know you're an agent here. You're an agent in this relationship. You're not here to just be played by your in-laws.
Right.
Start leading.
I like it.
That's the rule, okay?
I like it.
Rule number 2, though, is get on the same page with your spouse.
How many of the problems, you said 30% come into your office of couples with in-law problems, how many of those problems really come down to I'm not on the same page as my spouse?
A lot of them, because remember that your husband may be used to his parents.
Right.
Your husband may not see them as a problem. He just sees them as loving and kind.
They're mom and dad.
Yeah. I mean, every time he grew up, they'd always rub his head and mess his hair up, and now they do it to you, and you're like, don't mess my high bun. Keep my high bun out of this.
I knew that would come up.
I know. I've never heard the term high bun until today. So all of a sudden, we get involved. Our parents, we're dedicated to them in a way that maybe most aren't. We love them. We understand their faux pas. Yeah. So I would sit down with your spouse and say, really, What do we want our goals to be? What do we want our dreams to be? What do we want our traditions to be? Because it seems like a lot of your family traditions are becoming our family traditions. And start trying to build, build your relationship first with your spouse, build the standard that we want to live together before you go try to fix your spouse's parents.
I like it. After so many years, do some couples find themselves, I don't want to say bad-mouthing, but okay, bad-mouthing their spouse's parents because they are at that level of comfort and the walls are down a little bit and the filters aren't as sharp?
The minute you're arguing with your spouse's parents, you're in a whole different ballgame, right? You are now, you're way comfortable. But it's going to be easier not for you to even have to deal with your spouse's parents on certain things that are difficult. It might be better that your spouse deals with his parents. Blood
talks to blood.
Get your spouse on the same page with you. Use all your skills, your forte, use your love, use your marital promises to get your spouse on the same page. Then let him go do some of the talking. Then here's another rule. Always approach from love, not fear.
You've taught us this before on the show, and again, it applies to a myriad of relationships.
When someone is afraid, you know I'm afraid, and your body subconsciously is going to react to me, and it will start turning into fight or flight because it will sense something's weird with you. And when it senses something's weird with the other person, it's not going to listen as well, it's not going to be as effective, it's going to be kind of more reactive. If I can figure out a way to feel love in my heart for my in-laws, even though they're messed up and they make life difficult and they mess up my hair, even though they do that, if I can find the love, then the love will usually help you find the way.
Well, what would we be afraid of when it comes to those in-law relationships? When you talk about replacing fear with love, what is there to be afraid of?
Control. The fact that you might live the rest of your life without ever having your own holiday, that you might not have any more choices in your life, that you can't even decide what drink we're going to have at your own picnic because your mother-in-law is going to dictate the drink we're going to have at the picnic.
So fill all of that with love.
You've got to somehow figure out that these people aren't here to harm you, they're not here to hurt you. By having some love in your heart, you'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm not just saying go feel love, I'm saying you have to love these people as much as your spouse loves these people. And if you don't, you're a competitor. And the minute you're a competitor, you're an outsider, and the minute you're an outsider, it's game on.
I work in the communications field, and this is a rule. This next rule actually is a PR strategy to go on the offense instead of the defense. How do we do that in our relationships?
Most of us feel like victims to these people. We feel like we have no power, we have no control. They're always in charge of everything. We already know, we know that this December, we pretty much know what our in-laws are going to do to screw up our Christmas, right? We already know it. So if you already know what they're going to do to screw up the Christmas in May, plan ahead. Go on the offense. Get a vacation. Don't go to Christmas there. You've got 9 months, 8 months to figure out your life and plan ahead.
So you're anticipating.
There's no more secrets. See, all of a sudden, very rarely do you score on defense, right? Eventually, you have to be on offense to score. So if you're on offense, the way is, let's make a plan. And you know what I would do? This sounds old-fashioned, but I would just do the opposite of what they normally do. So if what they normally do is they create chaos, havoc, and they're always ruining holidays, then I might not be there for a holiday. It's a very simple thing to do.
Easy
now, again, you'd have to get the spouse bought in. But if you'll just go on offense, there's something really powerful that happens too, because all of a sudden you realize, again, you're an agent. And when you're doing what you can do, you feel so much better.
Is that a last resort, though? Instead of copping out and saying, I'm not going to allow myself to be in their presence, I'm not going to Christmas, is that kind of a last resort?
It could be, but it also might be the best lesson taught. And it also might be the most powerful lesson you can give, is that we are not always beholden to you. There are better ways, probably, but it might be also that, you know what, this year we're just going to do our own Christmas, and then we want you guys to come to our house for the Christmas.
Oh, there you go.
And so, but again, notice it's going to have to be exactly the opposite of what you're doing. I've seen people change just by me simply saying, what would you normally do? And they'll say, well, I would normally do this. And what if I said, what if you just did exactly the opposite?
Game changer.
Just that very thought changes the entire game and starts the whole conversation. I love this last rule, 30 seconds or less. Be okay with it just being okay. You're basically saying accept the relationship for what it is. It doesn't have to be kumbaya. It doesn't have to be we're best friends forever and we go shopping at the outlet mall. It doesn't have to be that. Maybe it's just going to be we respect each other. We can make each other feel safe. We won't talk behind each other's backs. But okay is okay. So if we can just have it be okay with that. It doesn't have to be best friends. It doesn't have to be your favorite role model in the world. It can just be somebody that you're grateful that they brought you, your wonderful spouse. Good discussion, as always, Dr. Matt Townsend. Thank you. Hey, your June date night is already filling up. Yeah, it's filling up. It's going to be a killer date night, by the way. Saturday, June 28th, 7:30 to 9:30.
Are you getting old? Can
I
you
am.
not
My
see
glasses
that?
are bifocals. It's at the Sandy Amphitheater, but the tickets are they're like $18 to $24, so they're a lot less expensive than we normally have them.
Yeah.
But bring your family, bring your friends, ages 16 on up, and we're talking about the differences, like not just male-female, but introversion versus extroversion. How come your husband never wants to go to a party and you always do? And how do you start to fix some of these differences?
At the Sandy Amphitheater, which is a cool venue, music, Matt, it's all there. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brett.